Thank you for all coming tonight on such a blustery night. I didn't realize how windy it had gotten till I was driving on Nugent Stretch and kind of swaying back and forth.
Yes. Blow your car around the road.
What's that?
I was blowing my car around the road this morning.
Yeah. Are you coming? We made it. Yay. The 10th one.
Yeah.
Janet, you want to do the prayers in English? Sure.
Here is the great earth,
Filled with the smell of incense,
covered with a blanket of flowers, the great mountains, the 4 continents, wearing the jewel of the sun and moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha, and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratnam Mantalakam Vedayamani. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of goodness that I do, and give me to rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do, and teaching and rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do, and teaching and rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. So, welcome to ACI Course 11, The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Part 2, Class 10. It's Contemplations on the Perfection of Meditation, Part 3, and it's also Exchanging Yourself with Others. So, let's see. Do you want to get the homework thing out of the way, first of all?
We just did. We did.
You just did it, okay. Thanks. Okay. Kevin, I can give you my address too if you want to mail me 10, and then I'll mail them back to you. All right. So how are the meditations this week on anger? They were angry, eh?
Oh my.
I did practice on the way over here.
You did?
Yes, because I have light sensitive eyes, and everybody had their high beams on before, in front of me and behind me. I'm just gonna close my eyes halfway and ignore it.
No, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
No?
Yeah. I think it's sometimes that like the xenon headlights now, they're just so bright, I don't understand how they're legal.
And SUVs are higher and trucks are
That's,
higher.
yeah.
And they
So
look
when
like
they're behind
behind
you at a stoplight,
There's
yeah.
more direct line of sight.
It's very
Chips are one of the
distracting
worst.
and uncomfortable for the eyes. All right, so this is the last class.
And if you made it to all 10, you should give yourselves a pat on the back. I was here. So, yes, I was.
You know when you spent the night in the hospital?
That was on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. No,
Why
I
did you
just,
spend the night in the hospital?
oh, my mom.
Oh,
She's
that's
got more
right.
stuff going on
That's
too right now.
Oh
so
dear.
I have to go back tomorrow. So, yeah, no, that didn't interfere with class.
I know.
Oh, it didn't? Oh, okay. Thank you. So we're going to continue with the perfection of meditation, which is the 5th of the 6 perfections. And last week, I think I introduced the class as exchanging yourself and with others. And it was actually treating others as yourself. So that was what we went over last week. And so this week, it's exchanging yourself with others, which is, we've worked up to this being the highest practice that you work up to. So we've arrived. And so class 10 is tips and ways to make exchanging self with others easier for us bodhisattva types. And first I wanted to do a quick review of instruction on meditation that we've covered, which I don't know if I called them the 8 factors when I went over them with you. Actually, I'm trying to think if we've gone over these, but I'll just jump right in and say that and this isn't on the homework, but it's good to know because we did, even if I didn't go over them in this format, we did go over them with antidotes to different distractions from meditation. So the first one is an interest in learning to meditate. That's what you need first. And the second has to do with effort which delights in meditating. So I think that's pretty much joyful effort. That's what I would call it anyway. And the third one is a kind of faith which believes in the benefits of meditation. So that's believing in what meditation is going to bring, that what meditation is going to bring you is highly beneficial, even before you've experienced the benefits. The fourth one is a pleasant feeling of self-control of body and mind in meditation. So that's when you reach a certain point where you've got some good sustained single-pointed concentration. And it starts to feel good. Now this gets into this one is a correction for a distraction. It's called recollection, which helps one to avoid losing the object being meditated upon. And
say that again?
recollection, which helps one to avoid losing the object being meditated upon. The sixth one is awareness, which watches to see if either mental restlessness or dullness are occurring. So the two ends of the spectrum, agitation or sleepiness. And that is what I believe Master Chuladasa John Yates refers to as peripheral awareness, the awareness of what your mind is doing, the watching mind. The seventh one is the thought to take action, which applies meditational antidotes in the mind when necessary. So that's doing something when something needs to be done. And then the 8th one is the thought to leave things alone when restlessness and dullness have been shut off and the mind is focused correctly. So that's one to not mess with it.
Could you slow down a little?
Yeah. That was the last one, so I'm done now. What do you need, Diane?
Thought to leave things alone when,
Restlessness
yeah,
and dullness have been shut off.
Can you say number 7 again?
Yep. And the mind is focused correctly. That's, I'm continuing.
Sorry,
this one.
I'm sorry.
So 7, the thought to take action, which applies meditational antidotes in the mind when necessary. So I'd like to go to the reading on page 194. And who's got that? Who would like to read? Claudia?
If you fail to practice perfectly this exchange of your own happiness with the suffering of others, you will never reach that enlightenment. And even here in the cycle of life, there is no happiness. You want to
Continue, if you would. Thank you so much.
Forget the goals of the world beyond. Even in this life, none of the things you hope to achieve will come about. Those whose duty it is to serve you will do none of their work, and those masters you serve will never pay.
So this is a follow-up on the last verse included in class 9, which is the total amount of happiness that exists in the world has come from wanting to make others happy. The total amount of suffering that exists in the world has come from wanting to make yourself happy. What need is there for many words? The children of the world work for their own sake. The able Buddhas do their labor for the sake of others. Come and see the difference. So on 194 and 195, the lines are a continuation of that. Master Shantideva is saying, I'm not really fooling around here. This is it. He's now stating it in the negative of what will happen if you're not attentive to others. If you don't exchange self with others and instead think only of yourself and your well-being, meaning you act selfishly, you'll never get enlightened. So that's pretty much it. The jig's up. It's really impossible. And living that way is kind of like the opposite of being enlightened. Because enlightened beings are enlightened because they've cared for other beings entirely and completely. And being enlightened is the total bliss of that compassion and selflessness. So what is the cause of bliss? Anyone?
Doing things for others.
Good deeds, yeah. So it's really good bodhicitta to the max. So if you want to start to get a glimpse of what bliss is like, help others. Start now. So what, in the same light, what brought me this tea?
you're serving others tea,
Yes.
drinks.
And
Bonnie,
Bonnie, yes, but why did Bonnie do it?
because she knows the secret to turn together.
And she's a bodhisattva. Yes.
Because she's
Um,
hospitality.
She said, but why is she hospitality? You know? So you can go straight down the line with that. And if I'm using up good deeds on things like tea now, what's going on with my my bank account? It's going south, right?
No, you're teaching.
No. Well, I'm doing that, but I do need to replenish the stores regardless. And there's even a bodhisattva vow to have helping others in mind when partaking of anything. So I'm thinking, everybody. And so this is with partaking of anything, food, drink, material things, anything, all that we consume, so that you're constantly having the wish in mind and you're dedicating. And then you're continuing to grow your good karma through that. Otherwise, as I said, the bank account is going south, and you're going to use it all up on things like tea and cookies.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not, I just look around and I happen to glance at you. If I'm saying that I'm drinking, as Craig said, if I'm drinking the tea to stay sharp so I can teach the Dharma well, in order to help others, then, that's the way to do it. Or if I'm eating this cookie in order to keep strong and keep my body alive to get enlightened, that's a good thing. And these are something you can do every day. When you sit down for your favorite meal, think, bliss. Enlightenment is coming my way because I'm staying strong and happy and healthy. So, and then you hold steady on your store of good deeds, and you're not using it all up. So, Master Shanti Deva goes on to say, forget the goals of the world beyond. Even in this life, none of the things we hope to achieve will come about in this these last verses. So forget about enlightenment. If I continue to act selfishly in this life right now, if I continue to go down the path that I have gone down most of my life, I'll find no happiness or satisfaction in this life, because pretty much that's why I'm here, because I hadn't found any happiness. That's why I'm, practicing this this way, and came and took all the classes and have pursued it, because that wasn't working. So everything I have that's good came from some at least partially selfless act. Or actually, I didn't mean to say that. I mean that it came from a at least partially selfish act. So even the acts that we commit are not completely selfless until much later. So so pleasure comes from doing things for other people, and any pain I experience comes from really looking out for number one. So that's some expression, isn't it? Looking out for number one. It should be really look out for number one if you want to be unhappy, if you want only short-term happiness, and you want to stay stuck in the cycle of samsara. And, you might think that this sounds in contradiction to the idea that that we must reach enlightenment ourselves in order to help all living beings. So, doesn't that mean we're putting ourselves first in line for enlightenment instead of waiting till everybody else gets enlightened? And that's not how we want to go. Lama Jesse told this story when he was teaching this class about a family a father and a mother and a couple of kids. And they were, way in the country, and they were starving. They had no food. I guess the crops had failed, and they were in dire straits and very close to death, actually. And the nearest town was quite a ways away. It was days away of travel. And they only really had like a couple of days to survive, and before they were going to starve. But they somehow came across, he didn't explain this part, but they came across what was called in that time a quarter of meat, which would be like the hind quarter of an animal. And so it was a windfall that they could feed on for probably 2 days, and then, their starvation would set in. Or they could send it off with one of them to go and try to get help to the town. So the dilemma was, should the mom take the meat and go for help? She was actually the strongest one of the two parents. And should she go and leave the others very hungry and not knowing whether they would starve before she returned? And they were having mental afflictions come up, like, why are you leaving? Why would you leave us? How could you do that? And take all the food. So it was a great decision for her to make, to see whether or not she would just stay with them and give in, or if she would go take the food from them and try to rescue them. So she decided that it was better to take the chance instead of making sure, staying, and they would all definitely die. It was better for her to go and take the chance to go to town and try to get back in time to help them. So, they were all upset with her because they thought she'd never get there in time, and how could she leave them, the kids especially. So she was willing to look really bad to her family and to do something that didn't seem to make that much sense to them, and caused a lot of upset. And she didn't know whether they'd be dead when she returned. So she goes off under these circumstances, and she does make it to town, and she does get help on horseback to come back quickly so that they would be saved. So the trip back was a lot quicker with food and medicine and stuff for them. So it's a great example of bodhisattva motivation, though, is to put, she was putting them first, even though she was taking the food for herself, because it was a higher goal that she had, was to save their lives. And for a mother to leave kids, that's pretty tough. So it's just like when you're on the plane and the cabin, I've never experienced this, but the cabin becomes depressurized and the oxygen drops down. If you're with a child or with an elderly person, the instructions are to put it onto yourself first so that then you can breathe and not pass out while you're putting it on the person who wasn't able to do it for themselves. So that's the same thing with the bodhisattva motivation of becoming enlightenment in order to help all sentient beings also become enlightened. You've got to get there so that you can help other people, so that you know how to help other people. So does that make sense? Okay. So the point is that sometimes bodhisattvas have to do something that seems weird or counterintuitive in order to help others, and you have to be willing to do that. The second part of the verse on 194 says that if we're selfish, nothing in life we try to achieve will work out. and will not even get paid for our efforts. Because where does money really come from?
Giving money to
Anyone?
others. Giving money to others.
Yeah, generosity and giving. So if money came from working hard, everyone who worked hard would have plenty of money. And then those who didn't work wouldn't have any money, and we know that's not true. Especially, I think, in this country. I guess it's worldwide, I shouldn't say that, but it's becoming more and more that way in this country. So, good stuff comes from thinking about others, and bad stuff comes from thinking about only yourself. So let's go on to question 1. Craig, do you have that handy?
Yep. Name 2 kinds of problems that Master Shantideva says we cannot see, which are caused by self-cherishing.
So Master Shantideva says that we can't yet see these things, and the reason we cannot get enlightened is because we're being selfish. And the reason we can't reach our goals in life is because we're being selfish. And we need to hear it over and over and over again and be reminded, because if it were obvious that these 2 things, culturally, if it were obvious to us that treating others better than ourselves would bring us happiness, then we'd already be doing that. So who's got 197? Kevin, do you have it?
Every single harm that comes in this entire world, every fear that comes, and so too every pain that ever comes from grasping to myself. What use for me then is this, the single greatest demon. Until the day that you give up your own self, you'll not be able to stop the suffering. Until the day that you let go of fire, you will not be able to stop your hand from burning.
So everybody remember the burning coal story that Lamaji likes to tell? Kevin, have you heard that?
Holding on to the coal.
Holding on to the coal. All right, so I won't bore you with it, but that's a good story about...
We need to hear it again and again.
You need to hear it again and again. All right, so our anger and our mental afflictions are like coals, and our self-cherishing are like, for each individual one of us, it's like a burning coal that we hold on to. And, ow, ow, it hurts, but don't take my coal because it's mine. And that's again the me and mine thing. But also that we're so accustomed to it, habituated to it, that we don't know what it would be like without it. So instead of changing, we just hold on to it. So Lamaji also talks about running with scissors, but I think the coal he genuinely got from a 700-year-old scripture, but the scissors I think he made up. So.
Or he got it from a novel, memoir.
I always think of it as Frasier,
Yeah.
the show where he was running around with scissors, saying, I'm running with scissors, I'm running with scissors. Anyway,
Never saw that.
well, he was a psychotherapist, and that's when he was getting crazy, when he ran around with scissors. So, Janet, can you read question 2?
What is the greatest single demon of all, and what metaphor does Master Shantideva use to describe it?
So the answer is in this verse, that self-cherishing instead of cherishing others is the greatest single demon, and the coal is the metaphor. So until we let go of self-cherishing, we're going to continue to get burned. If it weren't true, we'd be truly happy already. But we're not on a deep level. We're happy at moments, and then it passes. So, it's going to give you a little Tibetan. And this, so this is cherishing yourself. And then this is cherishing others. And it's Ren Chen Zin and Shen Chen Zin. And then Tak Zin. And this means holding. This means self. So this is seeing yourself as self-existence. And so this one is the one that they refer to as the worst demon. And this one is exchanging yourself. So Rang Chen Zin and Dak Zin go hand in hand. This, because if you cherish yourself, you hold yourself as self-existent. And the reason that we do hold it, that we do continue to self-cherish is because we do hold ourselves as self-existence. We see conventional reality as reality. And because of cherishing ourselves, we don't cherish others. We see them as separate, again, because of the self-existence. So Shen Chen Zin is what we want. This one. So we as suffering beings, we say to ourselves, you know, I want happiness, I don't want suffering. And that's fine and that's normal. We just have to recognize that others want that too, because when we say that to ourselves, immediately on the heels of those thoughts we think, and the way to do it is by taking care of myself alone. But that's, you know, as we're talking about in this class, that's wrong. Because what follows potentially is the willingness, you know, and most likely the willingness only to care for myself and to a willingness to hurt other people to care for ourselves and to get what we want. So, but ultimately it doesn't work that way. And that's why the Ram Chen Zin is considered the worst demon of our practice. So during our day we see something that we want, you know, whether we're online or we pass a store or there's some event that we want to go to or something like that. We immediately think, how do I get that for me? How do I get those tickets? How do I buy that? And I, I'm prioritizing no one above myself. And so we're prioritizing other people as lower than ourselves. So, when you really think about it, when you put yourself separate, we always put ourselves above other people. And it's just not true that they're below us, that they're lower than us. And those are the things that Master Shanti Davis says that we can't see. But we do know that those things haven't worked for us so far, getting what we want for ourselves. Otherwise, you'd be out doing something else this evening, or you'd be at home, curled up tight on such a windy, blustery, moonlit night, instead of being here in this classroom. We'd be off doing what we thought was making us happy. So, in this class, we've learned that other people are not below us. And so, what we need to do is to habituate putting other people first and serving them. And try over and over, because, I can't tell you how many times a day I fail at making the choice of, if it's as simple as letting the guy out in the car, I'm like, oh no, I'm in a hurry, I can't let one more car out, or as large as having somebody ask me to cook him a meal or help him move or drive him somewhere. It's really hard to say. I still find it very hard to say yes and get beyond whatever it is that I'm thinking I have to do. This is my schedule and nobody infringe on it. And, I would say that it's getting a little bit easier, but it's still a real challenge every time. And that's not even getting to offering. This is like just having people happen to ask. So it does take a lot of work. It's not easy to habituate this. But this is why we need some faith that it's going to help us make it be happier. This activity, these bodhisattva activities are going to help us be happier. And a lot of us have already seen some results in this lifetime, that our activities have brought us good things in ways that are unexpected, that our lives have improved, and that the joy that it brings us to serve other people have they've come in unexpected ways, the things that we hope. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Is that things change when you do these things, and things that you don't expect to bring you joy suddenly do. Whether it's the
Because you've changed.
Yeah, it is. It is, exactly. Thank you. But it does take the faith that we need. It's a leap of faith to continually try and to change your thinking. And it's the same kind of faith that we need to that we need to have about our meditation, that it's going to help us to reach enlightenment. We have to have that faith when we're struggling with meditation. And maybe none of you here struggle at all. I hope that's true. I hope that's true. So, Geshe Michael Roach talked about committing karmic suicide. And he described it as finding yourself in a situation where you say, okay, karma and all, but, you know, it's not in this situation. It just doesn't count. This time the karma cam's off. It's not going to count. So you push to the front of the line to get what you want, or you hoard something, or you do something like that. You think that taking care of me before anyone else is the best thing to do because, you know, all my friends say it's okay, and everyone else is doing it, and society agrees. I mean, that's the kind of culture we are in. So what's the big deal? Just this once. And that's what he calls karmic suicide, is making those individual decisions where I'm gonna fudge it this time. I'm gonna pretend like it doesn't count. Because if your ignorance gives a situation a stamp of approval, that's when you have to go the other way. But determining what is our ignorance coming up takes a lot of practice. So we have to examine everything, because motivation is everything. So if your ignorance tells you to go for it, you don't. You go for something else. You go for the opposite, pretty much. And that's what this class and the class 10 and class 12 are about, the Bodhisattva training. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to go on to reading on 199. Diana, could you read?
The master and the servant. It's something very wrong to look with eyes belonging to another and work for only my own goals. It's wrong as well to look with eyes working for them and to do something that's not right. Therefore, I should make all other people first priority in anything that I ever find upon my person. I should take away from me and seek some way to make a use of it for other people.
So once I've dedicated my life to Bodhisattva activities, once I've committed to exchanging myself with others, I need to avoid acting in contrary ways. I need to avoid feeling anger towards others, and I've sworn to that in my Bodhisattva vows. And through my vows, I've already given everything I own away anyway. All my time, all my belongings, everything. So you have to be really careful with practicing bodhisattvas too, because if you say, oh, that's a really pretty sweater or something like that, they're liable to take it off and hand it to you. And I've had that happen. So it's the practice of seeing with someone else's eyes. That's what they're doing. You're saying, oh, you like this? Okay, great, it's yours. So when I see with others' eyes, I need only see what it is that their needs are. And when I find myself making a mistake with these vows, this is when my observer mind must come in, and this is how the meditational stuff applies in daily practice all day long. So that observer mind, or the peripheral awareness, needs to catch it. And I need to remind myself of all the pain and suffering it will bring me by doing wrong by others. And this kind of like how do I want to say, this kind of back and forth, or this kind of decision making where maybe you're your conventional mind and habituation is trying to say, well, it won't count this time, so you need to counter that when you're trying to make a decision. That's a really good thing to bring into analytical meditation, so that you can debate it with yourself as to whether it's really worth it to take one path over the other. So, you present yourself with the arguments for and against helping other people in the moment. I want to go on to question 3. Claudia, do you have question 3 handy?
Yeah. How does Master Shantideva advise us to think of our clothes and our other possessions?
So Gyaltsab J says in his commentary, we need to think of all our belongings as belonging to some great master. And other beings are our masters. We're just using our things for the moment. All of our stuff belongs to other people. This we need to remember constantly and habituate. And this isn't, Lama Jesse referred to this as not wimpy. It's not nicey-nicey. It's, it's nice, but it's hardcore. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. I want to do, if you're up for it, a short meditation. Again, drawing from Christie's book. So if you want to get comfortable, get your feet flat on the ground and sit up nice and straight. Close your eyes. And just focus on your breath for a few moments. Watch the air as it goes out and then back in your nostrils. See if you can keep your mind fixed right there on the edge of your nose, on that single point. Now call to mind someone who you would normally see as higher than you. Could be your boss, someone else at work, your older sibling, someone who you think does everything better than you. Picture them sitting just across from you. Get out of the normal role that you have with them. Try to look at them objectively. You're trying to find happiness, just like you and everyone else. They are also suffering. And they need help. Now think of your normal role with this person as just a disguise. In reality, you've been sent to help them. You're there to save them from all pain. See yourself now as the one who will do this. Imagine the person as they would have been as a small child. That child is still there in their heart. And he or she needs your love and your protection. Look inside their heart and see this child. Reach out and take the child's hand. Promise them that you'll help them. Now, envision someone who's hurt you in the past. See them sitting across from you. See them as a small child. And establish this new identity with them. You want to practice this until you have no hesitation about helping them. When you're ready, you take a deep breath and bring your focus back to the room. And open your eyes. I want to read on page 101. 201.
Make those who are inferior to you, and so on, be yourself. Make yourself now none other than the others. Practice this with a state of mind that's free of ideas, the feelings of jealousy, competitiveness, and pride.
So, let's see. Question 4 goes into this. What does it mean when Master Shanti Davis says that we should practice 3 attitudes towards those who are higher than, the same as, and lower than ourselves? And what he's telling us is that there's 3 ways that we're afflicted by how we see others and it's contained in this verse, that if we see a person we feel is inferior to us, then we feel the mental affliction of pride. If we see someone that we consider to be our equal, we feel competitiveness. And if we see a person we feel is superior to us, we feel jealousy. So think of yourself in a yoga class, you know, and you're doing it the wrong way, okay? You're going in there to look around at people as opposed to focus on your own practice. So I don't recommend it, but just bear with me with this. So, you know, first thing you see somebody who's really probably their first class ever and is having a terrible time struggling, and you think, oh, well, I'm much better than that. I can do much better than that. I feel good now. And then you see someone who is probably about at your level, and you know, you may start to say, well, I can do my vinyasa better than them. And then, of course, you see the person who's got the perfect yoga butt and has all of their asanas, just their form is perfect, their balance is perfect, and they can do the toughest, you know, poses. You know, I can say that threading the needle is really hard for me, so I always admire it when people can do that, and wheel, and, you know, things like that. Those very, for me, they're advanced poses. And we may feel a little jealousy when we see people like that. Why can't I do that? You know, I really wish I could. So, you know, those are the kind of things that we're talking about being prideful and competitive and jealous. So, if you practice the switch, you know, switching yourself for the other person, and you look back at yourself and see yourself, you're in their body now, and you look back at yourself, you know, being jealous, for instance, if you're the high-level yogini, and you look back at yourself and you're there, you know, pouting because I can't do that, it's pretty ugly. And seeing that, doing that switch is a good antidote to these feelings, these mental afflictions.
So I'm not sure, the switch is you put yourself in the other person's place?
You see this high-level yogini, and you do the switch where I become, you know, them, and they become me, and you know, I'm then looking back at my body where this is so hard to articulate, so that the person I'm looking back at is the jealous one. And it's very unattractive to be jealous. I mean, pretty much anybody who's experienced jealousy from the receiving end can understand that. So this is what I'm talking about switching back that way. I know it gets confusing, and I don't think that I articulated that terribly well. But you know, it's the thing where you look back and you say, that's pretty unattractive and really kind of offensive. So seeing it that way, looking, you know, at yourself in that way, is a pretty good antidote to those three things, and of the pride, the competitiveness, and the jealousy. And these in the question, I'm looking at the wrong page, I'm sorry. In question 4, what does it mean when Master Shantideva says that we should practice 3 attitudes towards those who are higher than, the same as, and lower than ourselves? This is what he's he's talking about.
confused with this question, so was he
I
saying?
know, I realize that.
We
as
should
I'm
practice
talking.
pride, competitiveness, and jealousy? Or we should
No, he doesn't
practice
want you to do that.
Seeing the other person.
I'm quick
having
looking at my
those
homework.
feelings.
What was that, question
Should
4?
practice,
Seeing the other person having those feelings toward us?
should.
We put ourselves in another place to see how unjust it is
Yeah.
when they, which is us, because we've switched, are thinking about us, which is them. We look at those inferior to us with pride. We look at those equal to us with competitiveness, and those superior to us is with jealousy. So those are, he's identifying what it is that we do and suggesting that we do the switch in order to combat it, to work as an antidote. Kevin, can you read on page 202 and 203?
This one should receive the honor, but not us. We should never get the things he always does. He should bask in praise, and we should be belittled. He should have all happiness, and we the suffering. We should be the ones who have to do all of the work, and he should sit in perfect leisure. Throughout the world, he should become a great man. We should stay inferior and known as knowing nothing. What's the use of having no good qualities? We'll all strive that they have them all. There do exist those compared to whom this one is inferior. There are also those compared to whom we're highest. The state of our morality, views, troubles, and the rest is forced by affliction and not by choice.
It's it's a little confusing in the reading. But he's trying to articulate some powerful body switching techniques. So it's a way to use our problems on themselves. So you do the mind swap thing, so you're in the other person's body. And you look at the other as you. And normally, I want honor, fame, recognition of some sort, because it feels good and I deserve it. So when you do the swap, okay, so Diana is me, and I'm Diana right now. And as Diana, I look back at myself and I see how much I want recognition. And instead of wanting it for myself, I then switch to wanting it all for Diana, because it feels good when I have it, and I should give it all to her. So so if we still have self-cherishing mixed in to, because none of it is purely one thing or another. If we still have it mixed in, and some of you may not, we use this technique to make it easier to give it away, to give away the recognition or the honor or whatever it is that we're wanting for our cherished selves. We switch and we want to give it away to someone else. So, because I generally care more about my honor than Diana's, if I make the switch and see her as me, I'll care more about hers. So you got to make sure to do the swap first. When you do that, it feels good to get the things that I like, so I want them for the other person. Yes.
I was doing some reading today, and I stumbled upon the book that we were given at Paul's Memorial Service, and I don't know, it was so accessible. It's amazing. And anyway, it did strike me thinking about this very subject, that when you're in the presence of somebody who's very accomplished, and in whatever field, and they exhibit true humility, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. Thank you. Let's see.
I'm sorry,
No, it's okay. It's not that hard for me to lose my train of thought, so don't worry. So what you're trying to do is turn self-cherishing on itself, because so you've switched with someone because you know that getting, I like Reese's cups. So I want them all for myself, but if I switch with Diana, I'll want them all for Diana. You want one?
Thank you, I'll wait till.
You'll wait, but I'll make sure you get one, okay? You can have all of them, in fact. So this is kind of, well, it is what Lama Root called a few years ago as going medieval on your mental afflictions, because you're turning them on their head. You're using them against themselves. So question 5, Janet, can you read it?
Name 6 good things that the Bodhisattva, thinking of himself as others, wishes on others pictured as him.
That was well said, isn't it? Not all of them have been quite that clear. So it goes over, a list of items that include honor, things, and when it says honor, it says they should get it but not us. Things, they should get it but not us. Praise, they should get it but we should be belittled. Happiness, they should have all of it and we should have all the pain. They should relax and we'll do all the work. And they should get famous and we'll remain unknown. So I have another meditation that I'd like to do. If you want to get comfortable. So take a couple of moments to simply watch your breath as it passes out and then back in to your body. And take a couple of moments to focus your mind on the people who live and work around you, the people you see every day. And think about how every day each one of those people is struggling to find happiness and avoid pain, just like we are. We all want to be happy. Observe how none of them is really finding this happiness, and observe how much pain there is for them in this life. Feel your heart open to them. And think to yourself, I wish they could all find happiness. I wish they had no more pain. Now go one step further. Remember how they're all a projection, and how because of that fact, you have ultimate power to change them. Then take personal responsibility by cultivating the following limitless thoughts. Think to yourself, I will make sure everyone has every happiness they could ever wish for. I will take away all their pain. I will bring them to the highest happiness of enlightenment itself. And I will do this for every single being, leaving no one out. Now broaden your scope of your focus so that it encompasses the entire world, and think everyone is the same. They all want to be happy. I must help them. Feel the wish growing. Feel it in your heart as a small light. Feel the light expanding. To the size of your heart. To the size of your whole chest cavity. Feeling your entire body filled. And then feel it come out your pores, bright, shining golden light. And feel it reaching every living being. Take a deep breath and feel the light coming back. So that it's now in the room. and now in your body, and now in your heart. And take a deep breath and feel yourself grounded down through your feet. And when you're ready, just come back to the room and I'll open your eyes slowly. Bonnie, you want to read on page 206 when you're ready?
You must care for us by using all your strength, and we should, too, willingly take all the hurts. Are we not, though, someone you should care for? Why is it that you belittle us so? What use would we ever have for the qualities that he has? And he is a being of qualities. He lives in the savage jaws of the lower births. He has no compassion for living beings. Even worse, his delusion that he possesses higher qualities seems hoping to pollute the wise.
Janet, can you go on to 209?
No matter what, we must see to it that all the good qualities which we have are spoken all over the world. We must moreover assure that what good qualities he may happen to have are known to no one at all. Any faults that we have must be hidden away. Offerings must be made to us, but not to him. We must gain with ease and now the things that we want, and we must win all honor, but not him. When something wrong befalls him, all of us will watch a long time, feeling a kind of joy. We'll assure that he becomes a laughing stock for everyone, derided in all circles.
Thanks.
Is this extremely sarcastic?
It's with the switch.
Yeah.
It's with the switch being done. So it's the fault hiding is with the switch saying, I'm hiding my faults. I'm actually hiding yours. Okay, so I've become you, and I'm going to hide your faults. So you get all the accolades, and I'm the one who's derided. Dharma is not something you necessarily get in the first hearing. So don't feel pride, competitiveness, or jealousy. If you didn't, or are trying, just keep listening, because when you meditate on it and study it, you do more service, and you come back to it again the next time, or maybe the 500th time you hear it, you get it. So be patient with yourself. The fact that you're here and you're reading it is a big deal. It's very important. Craig, can you go to 212 and read?
If you had at some point in the past undertaken this very action, then it's completely impossible that you'd be living like this. It's something so opposite to the excellent bliss of a Buddhahood.
And Kevin, can you read question 6?
What answer does Master Shantideva give to those who complain that although they have worked for other people for a long time, they have not seen any result yet in their own lives?
He says that if we really did this practice and had done so previously, we wouldn't be in the samsaric mess that we're in, that we'd already be enlightened. So that's his answer. I'll tell you what he says in the answer key, though, because it's a little more in depth. He says very bluntly that if we had actually engaged in the practice of exchanging ourselves and others earlier, it would be impossible for us to be in this condition now. suffering instead of enjoying enlightenment. And he goes on to say that we should regret all the time lost and get down to it. So give up the quid pro quo, which is where you do something for something, as opposed to doing something for nothing, and stop fooling ourselves. If we were really cherishing others as we would ourselves, we would be happy. And if we start doing it and keep doing it, we'll be a Buddha. We'll be totally enlightened. Claudia, can you read on page 213?
As such, you must become accustomed to thinking of others as you do of yourself, when you believe that a couple of drops of semen and blood belonging to someone else could ever be the person you call yourself.
Can you go on to 214 too?
Let me command myself to work for every purpose, acting as if I were the least of servants. He is by his very nature wrong. Refuse to praise him for some small incidental good. See to it that any qualities which he does have aren't detected by anyone else at all.
Okay, I just want to say that it's not incidental, it's accidental. Because he goes over that word. He goes over that word in a little bit. So, can you read question 7, Janet?
How does Master Shantideva advise us to think of whatever good qualities we may happen to have?
Well, he says that our basic nature is lousy, and any good qualities we have are an accident. So we should keep our good qualities low profile. We should be secret bodhisattvas. We should be stealthy and remember also what they called, does anybody remember or know what they called Master Shantideva in the monastery?
Master, 3 things.
Yeah. Eat, sleep, and sleep.
Eat, sleep, poop.
Yeah.
Yes. So you can be a very high spiritual practitioner with nobody knowing it but you, or maybe your teacher as well. But nobody even needs to know that you're a Buddhist to practice. There's exceptions to this. Like in some cases you can really help people by being open about it and being more public about your practice. Because, like look at the Dalai Lama and how many people he helps in the position he's in. So, he's a guy who seems pretty blissed out most of the time. He's always happy and laughing. So exchange self with others and you'll be in bliss as well. And you want to meditate it too. Meditate on it. So you can give up the anger meditation now if you want. You can go back to it at any time that you need it. But I would say meditating on exchanging self for others for a while would be a good thing to do. You may have other assignments from other teachers, but this would be a good one to do on occasion, if not every day for a while. So I'm going to go on. Claudia, can you read on 221? Oh, you just read.
On 221?
Yeah.
You skipping some?
Where were we?
216.
214.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. We're skipping some.
Its final destination is always the same, the dust. On its own, it is immobile, dependent upon another for its motion. This body is a thing of filth, and merciless too. Why then do you hold it to be yourself? Whether it lives or dies, it doesn't matter to me. What's the use of this machinery, the body? What's the difference between it and a lump of rock? Why is that I cannot stop? Why is it that I cannot stop my pride for it?
Bonnie, can you read question 8?
What, according to Master Shantideva, is the inevitable result of caring closely and serving this body?
So we're back to the body, and the reason is it's so pivotal in our seeing ourselves as separate from others, because the I and the me is associated very closely with the body. So he's saying that the more we baby the body, the more sensitive it becomes, and the more separate we feel, and the more self-cherishing we become. So the finest food and body care products and the warmest or coolest rooms are going to make us soft. And think about it, if we have thermostatically controlled rooms, you know how it is when it goes down like 1 degree? Sometimes. Maybe 2 or 3, or if it goes up, Diana, a degree. And any women of a certain age, if it goes up a degree, that it can be very uncomfortable to us. But go and stay in a yurt in Arizona for a month, where the temperatures are really high during the day and really low at night, and see, what your sensitivity becomes at that point. So, it becomes no big deal because you become accustomed to it. So we can become accustomed to anything, and things like, the softer your sheets are, the higher the thread count you want. You need 1,000 thread count because the 500 wasn't soft enough. And, in some ways we're kind of like a frog in a frying pan because we just don't feel it eating up on us. The need for softer and softer environment. And there's nothing wrong with being comfortable. I'm not saying that at all. But it's all part of a worldly and samsaric life. Because as Americans, most people will only accept the absolute best for themselves and for themselves alone. So why not share it with others instead? Why not have it be for others instead? Geshe Michael Roach told a story about monks in the monastery. And I don't know if this was where he was or if this is like an old story. But he said if one of the monks would mention something about exchanging self with others, that he would soon leave his room, and the other monks would come in and take everything from his room. So he'd come back to a completely empty room. And if he became irritated or grumbled about it or anything, they'd say, well, you're not practicing. So it was...
Bullying.
That's another reason keep it to yourself. What'd you say?
Bullying.
No.
Sounds like frat behavior.
Yeah.
It does.
Hazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you got his stuff back. So maybe you want to keep it to yourself and not wear your badge on your sleeve yourselves, unless you're really ready to. Actually, you know what it is that we're jumping around. So I'm going to go to 216 now. Because what I did was the way that the homework questions were, they kind of were like jumped around, so I decided to follow the homework rather than the scripture, and then just put the scripture in at the right point. So 216, Craig, can you read?
Mm-hmm. The endless thirst of attachment to your own needs.
Oh, 216?
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
the title.
Title.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. The more it is that you take steps to do what you must in order to care for this, the body of yours, the more it is the body descends to nothing more than a state in which it can't bear pain at all. And the fall is such that even if you were able to get everything that was desirable on the surface of this planet, it would never quench the desire. Who then is it that could act to give you all you want? When they cannot, then this desire brings on mental afflictions and the lessening of thought,
Of the thought.
of the thought.
Can you go on to 219?
Satisfaction, the ultimate pleasure. The excellent things that come to those who depend on nothing at all are absolutely endless. On the other hand, it is desire for the body which grows forever, leaving you no other chance. He who is finished grasping to attractions has found the finest thing to possess of all.
And satisfaction, happiness.
Can't get me.
Help others and you'll be happy. Yes, you can. Eventually.
Can I tell, this reminds me, all of this reminded me of a story I heard once about Aboriginal tribes in Australia. And this woman who had traveled with them for a while out in the outback, and that the children, you know, I guess maybe because they were nomadic and because of their culture, they didn't have a lot of possessions because they just were nomadic, and they so their idea of playing would just be to, like, you know, tie a stick to a string and drag it behind them or something, and their inclination would be, gosh, that was fun, you try it, not, this is fun, you can't have it. Their natural inclination would be, try this is cool, you know, to other people, to the other children. And that always stuck with me. Yeah.
I've seen that with the Laotian children too.
Yeah.
They just play with leaves and share it. They're just lovely and happy and joyful.
Leaves.
Yeah.
I remember jumping in Peapo's leaves when I was a little kid. I don't know if they still do it. So, so if you've never been able to have nice, really nice things, you may already have the wisdom that they're not the cause of happiness. Or if you have had them and you've had them taken away, you may also have gained that wisdom. When we're comfortable, it's hard to see. It's hard to see. It's kind of blinding. Kevin, can you read on page 223?
In your worship of this body, you've piled up many sufferings, all of it meaninglessly. What's the use of this thing? No better than a piece of wood. Why the love and hate? Regardless of whether I continue to care for the body or whether the vultures come to feed upon it, it has no feelings of attachment or anger. Why then is it that I have this attachment myself?
So, question 9 asks, why does Master Shantideva compare the body to a dead piece of wood? And in this verse he says that it's because the body has no care as to whether it's worshipped or ravaged by vultures. It's unattached. It has no mental afflictions. Our minds create these scenarios and these connections. So, this is the way I see it. This is like some renunciation for the body. And the Buddha tried asceticism, and he found that it wasn't the way. So I'm not talking about that. But the intense attachment that we have to our presentation of ourselves and our bodies is what's what he's talking about here. It's not about not meeting your needs. It's about going way up and above and beyond your needs for your body. So, Bonnie, can you read on 225?
And so, in order to clear away the obstacles, I must collect my mind to avoid the path that errs. Always, then, I must place my thoughts in balanced meditation upon an object that's correct.
And can you go on 227?
We must learn to use the special vision which sees directly the nature of reality in order to destroy the two types of obstacles, ripping them out from the roots. All this, though, depends on achieving unshakable one-pointed concentration. As such, you must first seek to master the practice of quietude.
So, now, in light of that, how are the meditations really going? Has anybody seen any improvement during this class, I hope? Or any more willingness to sit? Yeah. Anyone want to share anything? Okay. Well, that is the end of course 11, class 10. And it completes the first 5 of the 6 perfections. So the 6 perfections are, again, giving, generosity, which when we have worked on that, it can lead us to ethics, which will, in our practicing our ethics, it will help us to avoid getting angry and experience patience, which when we've developed great patience, we can have joyful effort in order to help other beings. And with that joyful effort, we can meditate well and develop our single-pointed concentration. And all of those are going to lead to the next class, which is class 12. I don't know who's teaching it. Bob, do you have any idea who's teaching it and when? I think it may be taught over the winter, meaning in January, but I can't say for certain. I was going to call Margaret today, but I didn't have an opportunity to, and she may not even know at this point. So hopefully that will be what it is, but I can't promise. So, and it's a wonderful class. The whole thing is on wisdom. It's a terrific class, of course. So, anybody got any questions or anything? Okay. So continue to meditate daily. Try exchanging self and others for meditation. I think I covered all the homework. And I just want to say that this evening, I was hoping Mary Kay would be here for one, but she couldn't make it. She had to be in New Hampshire. But I just want to pay tribute to her as my Holy Lama, and also to Lama Marut and Lama Jessie and all the other Lamas that I've got. And yes, Holy Lama. Thank you for being here. And I'd like to make a dedication to our Holy Lamas and all those gone to bliss. We thank you for these teachings given down to us, and I thank everyone for the opportunity to teach. So we can say prayers now.
Please teach. Please teach. Please teach. Please stay. Please stay. Please stay.
Thank you.
This is the great earth. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers, the great mountains, the 4 continents, wearing the jewel of the sun and moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha, and offer it all to you.
By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Karmirya Tayami.
By the goodness of what I have just done,
May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. Sarvamangalam.